From Newzroom Afrika Studios in Randburg, Johannesburg, welcome to this month's last episode of This Week in Politics. My name is Vuyo Mvoko, and thank you for joining us. On the show tonight,
the NDPP has started a disciplinary process for employees who have been found wanting at IDAC.
Following dramatic revelations at the Madlanga Commission, which saw the head of the Investigative Directorate against corruption, Andrea Johnson, abruptly resign, Justice Minister Mmamoloko Kubai and NPA head Andy Mothibi have announced a plan to restore IDAC's soiled reputation.
There's been no evidence that ties the EFF to any wrongdoing, and this is a fact we remain proud of.
I have nothing to fear. EFF leader Julius Malema professes innocence ahead of his own appearance before the Madlanga Commission. There, he is expected to shed light on his relationship with criminally charged Deputy Crime Intelligence Head Feroz Khan and comments the Red Berets president made about the compromised former IDAC head Andrea Johnson.
No.
And he does it again. MK party leader Jacob Zuma once more flexes his muscle, this time clipping the wings of his hand-picked top executive and immediately making himself the party's chief accounting officer in charge of all its finances.
This can't be a one-way street. The president ought to find fairness.
What are we trying to test for here?
The judgment itself demonstrates that these issues are contestable.
We'll also bring you an update on political parties in Parliament who are at loggerheads over how best to proceed with President Cyril Ramaphosa's impeachment process following last week's Western Cape High Court ruling, which gave the head of state a bit of a reprieve. All that and more in this episode of This Week in Politics. Born out of the recommendations of former Chief Justice Raymond Zondo's State Capture Commission, an inquiry that cost the taxpayer almost R1 billion, the Independent Directorate Against Corruption, IDAC, was South Africa's answer to the corruption scourge. Experts had warned that without superior investigative and prosecutorial capabilities, as well as political will, the fight against corruption would be lost forever. IDAC was meant to speedily and efficiently investigate, as well as successfully prosecute, the serious high-level cases of corruption and white-collar crime that the Zondo Commission had unearthed. A mere 18 months after its establishment, IDAC senior officials stand accused of facilitating or even committing the very heinous crimes they were meant to fight. So what went wrong? And so quickly? Well, one person who should answer that question left in a huff this week, with many fingers pointing at her. Andrea Johnson asked President Cyril Ramaphosa to release her immediately, as in now, without serving the 3-month notice period prescribed in her contract. Her departure, however, may not save her. She will still have to account for her tenure, her decisions, and actions. At least that's the word from Justice Minister Mmamoloko Kubai and National Prosecuting Authority head Andy Mothibi.
And you know that Advocate Johnson has resigned. That obviates the question of holding her accountable as an employee. That would have required an inquiry and. But the resignation, as we always say, and we have said that even when we were at SIU, that those that are found wanting and those that have contributed to wrongdoing will be held to account even though they've resigned. Now, another aspect of the spectrum of accountability is that if there's evidence pointing to criminal action, and you may have followed on the Madlanga Commission, even Advocate Johnson herself indicating that, and that's why she has opted not to answer some of the questions because there's investigations that are underway.
Now, at that briefing on Thursday, the NPA and the Minister of Justice were meant to announce Johnson's interim successor at the very least, but none of that happened.
The Act does allow for the Minister to appoint, on the recommendation of the NDPP, an acting head. I've requested vetting in light of the difficulties and other issues that we are seeing, but we also are in the process of actually ensuring that the post is filled fully. So we're hopefully we should be before the end of the week or by next week have an acting head in terms of the IDAC.
Now, several of Johnson's allies have also been suspended. Chief Investigator Dylan Perumal, together with senior investigators Brian Parayachi and Sunil Belochun, are to face an internal disciplinary inquiry.
I have, as the Minister, placed Mr. Dylan Perumal on suspension from his position as the Chief Investigator of South Africa's Investigative Directorate against corruption, pending disciplinary action and disciplinary processes. And the NDPP, in terms of his powers, also in terms of authority, you would understand that there are delegations at which level you deal with what, has started a disciplinary process for employees within the purview of his purview who have been found wanting at IDAC, and that has commenced. Mr. Brian Parayachi and Mr. Suleiman Buluchan have already been suspended pending disciplinary proceedings against them.
Evidence tabled this week before the Commission suggests that the four conspired to launch an orchestrated attack against National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola and Crime Intelligence Chief Dumisani Khumalo.
Before I deal with the events that transpired from the 6th of December 2024, I want to make it clear that Advocate Johnson and Mr. Perumal launched an orchestrated attack on General Masemola and General Khumalo using IDAC's powerful investigation tools.
Masemola and Khumalo's cases have been provisionally withdrawn and are being re-evaluated.
I can confirm that General Masemola's matter is included within the scope of the matters that are under review.
Mothibi and the Justice Minister also promised that the process to restore IDAC's soiled credibility, as well as the public trust, will go far and wide and won't be limited to those fingered at the Madlanga Commission or in court cases currently being heard. Lifestyle audits will be conducted among all IDAC personnel. All cases the Directorate is currently handling must be re-evaluated, and so too must its standard operating procedures. There'll also be investigations into why critical posts were not filled. I asked the NDPP why there were so many vacancies and how that has affected IDAC's work.
Well, part of the project is to really find out. In fact, today we had an organizational performance review committee meeting, and IDAC was also part of that. Amongst others, there has been some delays, right, in the recruitment processes. The Human Resource Division head reported at that meeting that there's various factors that cause the delays, okay? The requests, in some instances, the divisions don't even make requests to fill the positions. In some instances, there's delays because, we operate on delegation of authority. The DG and the minister delegate, authority to NPA. So in some instances, some of the levels, the authority to sign off on the recruitment lies with the Department of Justice. So those are some of the issues that we will look at. I've engaged with the Director General, I've engaged with the Minister. We will look at some of the delegations that can be delegated to NPA level so that we speed up the recruitment process.
Just briefly to end on this one, how can you mention a couple of those skills and just how critical they are to the work of IDAC?
Yeah, the financial analyst is one of those skills. Forensic investigators, and I think just to the financial investigators. So those are some of the areas that have got vacancies. We have to make sure that we recruit them. As you know, that the work that IDAC really should be doing, right? When it was first established, it was established to investigate the outcomes of Zondo. But it was also established to investigate the outcomes of Mompati Commission that was at PIC. Also the outcomes of the Nugent Commission, if there are any matters that comes from there. So this is an agency that was really supposed to look at those big ticket matters. There are those cases on the roll or on the caseload. We have to make sure that we review and see where they are. There are referrals that are made by other entities like SARS and so on. We have to go back to those cases and see the traction which they are making. So to that extent, we will need those skills. Those skills are required and required urgently.
But how much of it was as a result of neglect on the part of not only the head of IDAC, but also perhaps the National Director of Public Prosecutions herself?
Well, we haven't determined that yet. As part of this process, we'll have to ask those questions. Why is it that this, we have to look at the age analysis of these vacancies. If we find that there's been unreasonable timeline, we have to ask those questions, right? So as we speak, we're just really starting the analysis.
Now, you've mentioned the review of the National Commissioner's case. Who else, General Fani Masemola, who else are you looking at, or what other cases are you looking at?
Well, at the moment, those are the ones that we have really ring-fenced for review. We are going to now look at the caseload as we do the audit. I don't have any other one at the moment that I can mention, but it's going to be a comprehensive audit of the cases that are on the books of IDAC.
Let's talk then about the cases that have been withdrawn, albeit provisionally. Why provisionally?
Right. If you look at the NPA Act, right? If you look at the NPA Act, and I'm sure you can go and read Section 6 of the NPA Act, right? It speaks about withdrawal of cases, right? You won't find the word provisional there. But, I've been a prosecutor for a while as well. This is a practice that has developed over the years where matters are said to be provisionally withdrawn, right? So the context there is that you can't really say the matter is finally withdrawn because there's investigations that are still underway, right? And I know that there has been comments, by some quarters that IDAC had said the investigations are complete, and that is what we will look at as we do the reviews, right? And then we will come back. We will come back and say we've finalized the review. If we need to announce that now we've dealt with that provisional withdrawal, now it's finally withdrawn, we'll do so.
The Mukwele matter, which others?
There's Mukwele matter that Kumalo, Mukwele, and I can't remember all the names. That's the matter that has been withdrawn now.
Of course, the former National Director of Public Prosecutions that I was talking about there, who I believe also has a case to answer, is Shamila Batoy. But after that interview with the National Director, current National Director of Public Prosecutions, I also spoke to the University of South Africa's Professor Dirk Kotze, who sat through that Thursday briefing with me. Andrea Johnson's resignation is not necessarily going to save her from being held accountable.
Yes, I think that is sort of a public expectation also. You know, she paid the price of resigning, but if you listen carefully at what she presented to the Madlanga Commission, it looks almost as if there were active interference in the role or the lack of oversight that she was supposed to play as the manager, if I can put it that, of IDAC. So there was negligence, very certainly there, but it can even be interpreted as interfering in the processes, the legal process, the judicial processes. So it will be interesting to see how IDAC or the NPA is going to interpret this, whether it has actually criminal or judicial implications.
Of course, I mean, not only that, I mean, certainly from what Ms. Ramsamy said today, there are questions around her leadership and her ability to take the tough decisions we actually expected her to take. And I mean, if Ms. Ramsamy's evidence that was led today is anything to go by, he wasn't really that person that this country was looking for.
No, indeed so. I think, you know, many people refer to her history before she came to IDAC, and it was quite good as a prosecutor. So there were high expectations about her. But now the fact that she became involved, and I think this is my interpretation, involved in the internal politics between IDAC and especially crime intelligence, and that it involved people even from outside. You know, we start to see now politicians are involved in it, members of parliament. That really complicated the matter. And I think she was just caught in a situation where she couldn't protect her own independence. She was, maybe one can even say, she wasn't willing to do that. And I think that is the real accusation against her, is that despite the fact that this position demands from her to be an independent person, to be a person who takes the lead with respect to difficult court cases or difficult cases, and that's with respect to corruption specifically, that she was simply not strong enough to do that.
But something also has to be said about how we put structures in place to deal with very specific problems that are confronting us, but perhaps failing in terms of ensuring that those structures not only function well, but there are safeguards, you know, against those that may want to use these organizations and the power that comes with them for their own personal and other benefits. So questions have to be asked about what our legislators, but what the executive and everyone else who's a stakeholder in this, in how we come up with supposed solutions, but that end up bringing us more problems than they are dealing with.
Yes, that's indeed so. I would argue that we can't expect a legislation to cover all the angles. So it's very much about the internal management and the internal procedures, the regulations, procedures that govern the internal functioning of it. But I think what we've heard today is that there's an excuse, it's only 18 months old. But that's exactly the problem, is that within 18 months they already started to make these mistakes or transgressions. It was supposed to have functioned well. You know, if it was a 10, 20 years old institution, then you can say maybe they become too used to the processes. But it was all new. And the fact that it was abused or not complied with so quickly in the system, I think that's the accusation that is really going against it. And that is, you know, the minister today presented it as if she's not involved in these things. And whether there has been complaints, she said there were no complaints to her. But the point is, once there's just the first indications of problems, then they should have acted.
And that's exactly how I felt, especially after she had actually said herself that a couple of people actually came forward, but then she became very defensive when I asked whether she should at least partly take responsibility for not acting on those approaches, even though, as she said, there was perhaps lack of evidence. Just one quick one, Professor. Something has to be said also about Shamila Batoy, because the minister says that in the short time she has had with Advocate Mothibi, he has been able to come to her and say, I'm dealing with this one, I've dealt with that one already. She's found it easy to actually work with Andy Mothibi, perhaps in ways she wasn't able to do when Shamila Batoy was around. So perhaps in this whole process of trying to find out what exactly went wrong, she too should be asked some questions.
Indeed so. I think this is one aspect which is not really attended to. And then we start to forget that the IDAC wasn't formed 2 years ago. It is actually a product it's a much older one that was established during the time of the Zondo Commission. They transformed it into IDAC as it is now. So there is actually a longer period of experience of how to deal with this, but I think what we've seen, and that comes back to the main terms of reference of the Madlanga Commission, is the external interventions. It's not only between IDAC and the NPA, but also the relationship with the police specifically, and more specifically crime intelligence, now the politicians. And so that complicated the matter. And I think what is the challenge is how to ensure that in future there are better checks and balances. And one thing which I'm quite strong on is that there is too much potential for conflicts of interest. For IDAC or for the NPA to investigate it, IDAC is actually investigating yourself. And I don't think that's a good principle.
After the break,
there's been no evidence that ties the EFF to any wrongdoing, and this is a fact we remain proud of.
EFF leader Julius Malema professes innocence ahead of his own appearance before the Madlanga Commission, where he's expected to shed light on his relationship with alleged wrongdoer and senior crime intelligence officer Feroz Khan.
No.
And he does it again. MK party leader Jacob Zuma once more flexes his muscle, this time clipping the wings of his hand-picked top executive and immediately making himself the party's chief accounting officer in charge of all its finances.
This can't be a one-way street. The president ought to find fairness.
What are we trying to test for here?
The judgment itself demonstrates that these issues are contestable.
We'll also bring you an update on political parties in Parliament who are at loggerheads over how best to proceed with President Cyril Ramaphosa's impeachment process following last week's Western Cape High Court ruling, which gave the head of state a bit of a reprieve. All that and more in this episode of This Week in Politics. Welcome back. You're watching The Week in Politics. It's probably a matter of time before the Madlanga Commission asks EFF leader Julius Malema to appear before it, where he'll be expected to shed some light on his relationship with criminally charged Deputy Crime Intelligence Head Feroz Khan and Khan's associate, tobacco smuggler Mohammed Sayed. The Commission recently heard that Khan used Sayed to communicate with Malema, even getting the EFF leader to ask parliamentary questions that pursued Khan's nefarious agenda. WhatsApp messages tabled before the Commission suggested that Malema may have conspired with Khan and Sayed to remove former Intelligence Inspector General Sitlomamare Dintwe. Evidence leader, Advocate Matthew Chaskalson, also presented evidence to the Commission showing that Khan passed police information to Sayed, who then passed it on to Malema regarding the Red Beret leader's alleged involvement in the VBS saga. Malema promptly deposed an affidavit to the Commission denying the allegations, and this week spoke publicly for the first time. But before we get to what Malema said this week, here's a bit of a background, a piece filed by Newzroom Africa's Junior Kumalo on the day the information was tabled before the commission.
The Madlanga inquiry has heard allegations of how crime intelligence head Feroz Khan abused his office to benefit individuals close to him.
But then there is a separate pattern which starts becoming more problematic, and that is a pattern where friends of General Khan will send him case numbers and ask him for some assistance in relation to those case numbers.
Chief Evidence Leader Matthew Chaskelson inferred that WhatsApp chats between Khan and Tobacco Company Director Mohammed Sayed reveal EFF leader Julius Malema may have benefited. Malema allegedly needed Khan's assistance with arresting members of Operation Dudula for inciting xenophobic violence in 2021, while in turn, the deputy crime boss seemingly wanted to oust Crime Intelligence Inspector Setlumamaro Dintwe.
And the secondary concern is that this process suggests that something of a quid pro quo was taking place, if we look at the chronology. We've already seen that immediately preceding the exchanges relating to the Inspector General, a day before, literally a day before General Khan formulated his draft question, a message had been communicated by Mr. Sayed to General Khan, ostensibly on behalf of Mr. Malema and apparently asking for the arrest of persons making threats to foreign nationals on behalf of Operation Dudula. That took place on the 10th of June, that message.
Delving deeper into the chats between Khan and Sayed, extracted from the deputy crime boss's devices confiscated in May, Chaskelson identified at least 2 more of these instances of this alleged this-for-that relationship between Malema, Sayed, and Khan. Through the chats, Chaskelson also alleges that Malema sought assistance from Khan in identifying the complainant in the VBS matter. Khan not only identified VBS curator Anush Ruplal as the complainant, but also shared his home address with Malema. In an affidavit to the commission, Malema refuted all claims against him.
I've been invited to respond to a vermins contained in an extract of Mr. Tsepo Nyatlo's, Mr. Nyatlo affidavit, which supposedly implicate me. As a starting point, the evidence of material alleged to implicate me in Mr. Nyatlo's affidavit are largely purported extracts of communications between Major General Feroz Khan, General Khan, and Mr. Mohammed Sayed, Mr. Sayed. I evidently cannot confirm whether these extracts are a true recordal of their engagements or the authenticity of those extracts. Only they can. I deny that I conspired to orchestrate the removal of Dr. Dintwe. Paragraph 10, in any event, I regularly receive information from various sources, some covert, some public, that relates to my work as a Member of Parliament. This paragraph is not an invitation to me. Some come from private citizens and some from public officials like the police.
Chaskelson added that Khan, in July 2021, seemingly needed assistance from Malema in fending off disciplinary processes against him. In turn, the EFF leader, through Sayed, allegedly requested Khan's aid in securing a fleet contract for Betobright, a company linked to Malema. The commission continued to hear the rest of the Khan-related testimony in camera, citing the possible exposure of ongoing cases or crime intelligence operatives as the reason. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Junior Kumalo in Pretoria.
Junior Kumalo with that background. And then this week, a spirited Julius Malema spoke about the claims, professing his innocence and blaming people he said had a vendetta against the EFF.
The EFF continues to observe the ongoing proceedings at the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into Criminality, Political Interference and Corruption in the criminal justice system, commonly referred to as the Madlanga Commission. As an organization, we remain in support of all efforts to uncover the rot in our criminal justice system, as has been demonstrated in the ad hoc committee to investigate allegations made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, wherein our participation enhanced the work of the legislature to expose and hold accountable those who have corrupted justice. We reiterate the call for all preliminary findings and interim reports by the Madlanga Commission to be made public and accessible, as those reports do not belong to the President of the Republic, but belong to the people of South Africa. To handle preliminary findings and reports with secrecy undermines the constitutional principle of transparency and risks selective and politically motivated conduct as it relates to prosecutions and arrests related to the work of the Commission. The EFF calls on all South Africans to resist the urge to succumb to juvenile and politically motivated insinuations drawn from the work of the Commission, which are not rooted in any evidence or fact. Despite all attempts to cast doubt over the organization and its leadership, there's been no evidence that ties the EFF to any wrongdoing, and this is a fact we remain proud of. We encourage the Commission and its evidence leaders to rely on evidence and drawn from verifiable and credible processes of the law and legal institutions. Tabloid journalism and speculations by media outlets who have proven vendettas do not constitute evidence, and the use of news articles as evidence by such credible commission only serves to undermine the credibility of the process and turn the Commission itself into a weapon of propaganda.
Newzroom Afrika reached out to the Madlanga Commission to find out whether, and if so, when will Malema be called in. Here's what spokesperson Jeremy Michaels had to say in a statement that he sent through. Now, quote, the Madlanga Commission has noted the comments made by Mr. Julius Malema, the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, the EFF, at a media briefing on Thursday, the 30th of July, 2026. Regarding the allegations made against him, Mr. Malema was served with a Rule 3 notice on the 12th of June, 2026, to which he has responded. The Commission issues Rule 3 notices to individuals who have been implicated in evidence before the Commission and provides those individuals with the opportunity to place on record their response under oath. This is in accordance with the Commission's duty to ensure procedural fairness and to conduct the inquiry in a fair and impartial manner. The Commission is considering whether to call Mr. Malema to testify before it. A little later on, we are going to talk about election-related matters the EFF leader spoke about, which was, in fact, what his briefing was ostensibly about. But before we do that, we're also going to look at another major party leader who was also busy this week ahead of the November 4 local government elections. MK Party President Jacob Zuma has once again put a cat among pigeons, dissolving an entire leadership structure and replacing it with a new one. The party's national spokesperson, Sfiso Mahlangu, will join me after the break. Welcome back. You're watching This Week in Politics. MK Party President, former President Jacob Zuma, has established a new structure that is going to be the highest decision-making body of the party. And to talk us through what has actually happened and its implication is the party's national spokesperson, Sfiso Mahlangu. Welcome and thanks very much for your time.
Oh, thanks for having me and good evening to you.
Now, you had officials. You had the president, you had 2 deputies, you had a secretary general, and a whole host of other officials. What does the establishment of what is called a strategic presidential team, a very peculiar title, actually mean?
Yeah. In your previous intro, you said President Zuma has dissolved the national officials. The president has not dissolved the national officials. I'm a member of the national officials. The president is still the president, the SG, the TG, the 2 deputies, and so on and so forth. President Zuma has inserted a new layer, which is called the Strategic Presidential Team.
Above or below?
That is above. We are part of that team. So it is the Strategic Presidential Team in partnership with the national officials. That is a team of 20, which is the highest body in the organization, which works in consultation with the president and with the officials to advocate party structure, party planning, the execution of planning ahead and beyond of the local government election. Now, this does not dissolve the current leadership. It enhances it, empowers it to the election and beyond. Parties such as the ANC have an NEC. The NEC of the ANC has got 80 people. We don't have an NEC yet. So we're looking for help. It's a big election. And so this team has come in to really assist the party. I mean, outside of the shenanigans of the IEC, Mkhonto Sizwe got about 2.6 million votes. That's a lot of people who've shown support. So we need a big team. And now there is a team. We work hand in glove with them to secure our victory at the polls on the 4th of November.
So it's going to function only between now and the election?
It will function to the election because we need help there, and certainly after the election. We'll decide what measurements to take, what the president decides, but a new team is in the House. The president has not dissolved the officials. He's not dissolved any structure. Addressing us, the officials, and the new team, he said, you are going to work together to secure this victory. Now, South Africa is a big country, of course, with 9 provinces and 60 million people. You couldn't do that simply on 9 national official members who are vast across the country. Some, of course, as you know, Dr. Judge Hlophe is in Parliament. Deputy President Tony Angeni is our second DP. He's deployed to Mpumalanga, and the rest of us have been deployed across the country. But what this team means is that we can get to the ground ahead of the election. So it's at the Secretariat, it's at the finance level, it's at the branches, it's at party structure development, the constitutional review. So this team gets into the ground with us in looking at how we can win by a large marginal victory at the local government elections, but it should take us to 2029, where we hope to govern this country.
Who outside of the officials? Give me a few names of the people who are going to serve in the strategic presidential team.
Well, we've got 20 individuals who come from various array of backgrounds, from academia. Many are former Mkhonto Sizwe combatants, some are academicians, and so on. We've got 2 former CEOs who've come into this team to really strengthen some of the build-up. Not just, of course, in planning, in execution too. Maybe to drop a name, we've got Dr. Kanisile Shabalala-Litchfield, who's there, and she needs no introduction, and she's coming as part of this team. Stembela Mase is coming. He's been CEO of several organs of state in South Africa, and he's part of this team, and of course others. Okay. So others will be giving a array of instruments. As I say, some come from engineering, some academia, some of course are in Parliament, are party MPs as it is. But they come in and they join with us in the growth and development of this party. We're a 2-year-old party, so we need the intervention. And as I say, we don't have an NEC, so they come ready to hit the ground running. They have in this week, and we're looking for a victory come November 4th.
Are the officials, or all the officials, happy with this new arrangement?
The officials are happy with this arrangement. We've seen reports in the press that there was infighting and there was dwindling among us. That is, of course, the anti-MKP propaganda that's perpetuated in the press, in particular the Sunday World. I can confirm as party spokesperson that these two teams are working hand in glove to secure victory for the elections. They've hit the ground running. There is no division in Mkhondwesi's party, and we hope that the media may desist from this appreciation of factionalism. We're a united forum, and victory is certain come November.
So you're saying that, contrary to what the Sunday World wrote, which is that Secretary General Sibonelo Nomvalo and Treasurer General Brian Molefe had a heated confrontation in the presence of the party president, who didn't approve of what they did. You're saying all of that is wrong.
I don't know what sort of confrontation can sit in such a high level structure. The individuals you're talking about are astute, educated, very experienced and informed individuals who sit with a former president of state and party president. They're very distinguished. There are no heated arguments between us. It's a very vociferous forum. We debate quite heartedly. There was no blow-to-blow, as you see in some of this press. We argue our points and our beliefs, as we've always done in the party, but we're a united forum going ahead to the elections. We read some of these things with disbelief. Some of it is like literature or soap opera. You read that somebody stormed out, running out of the building. Those sort of things don't happen. We had a workshop at Birchwood Hotel, which was wonderful. It encompassed a lot of our wards, our branches, our measurements at the elections, our MPs, our various structures and legislatures. And I must say it was very informative. The president made the last remarks there. He got a standing ovation, and the party came out of the elections workshop very united. There were no blows there. Okay. There was no anti-Nomvalo narrative or anti-this person narrative. I think these are anti-MKP narratives that are perpetuated by the press. It's unfortunate, okay. But they'll see the victory come November 4th.
So Madlanga, let me thank you very much for coming through. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
National spokesperson of the MK party. After the break, we'll bring you more stories as we track the road to the November 4 elections. Don't go away. You're watching Newzroom Afrika, channel 405, and we're watching this month's last episode of The Week in Politics. My name is Vuyo Mvoko, and thank you for staying with us. Now, while your DAs, EFFs, IFPs, Action SAs, and many others have already announced their mayoral candidates, at least for some of the country's biggest municipalities, the largest party, the ANC, is yet to do so. You may have to wait another month to hear who the party will nominate, but ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula says, well, it's coming.
The movement's contract with the people for the next 5 years of local government is nearing finalization. As inputs of the sectors of communities continue to come in, and it too will be revealed to the nation on the 15th of August, here in Gauteng, at River Park in Diepsloot. That's where the ANC will launch its manifesto. And before that manifesto, the candidate selection process of the ANC will have been finalized. The selection of mayoral candidates will have been finalized. And some of these mayors we are going to announce will resume duties with immediate effect in the different councils throughout the country up until and beyond November, depending on the outcome of the general elections.
Action SA has unveiled Ayanda Ali as the new member of the party that will be responsible for the election as election campaign ambassador in Gauteng. The announcement was made by the party's president and Johannesburg mayoral candidate, Herman Mashaba. Her move comes hot off the heels of her exit from Build One South Africa.
I don't want to dwell on the past, colleagues, and I don't want to resuscitate the events preceding today. I don't want to mar this glorious occasion by regurgitating what has already been, I think, ventilated well enough on many, many different platforms. I do, however, want to place on record my thanks to the previous organization of which I was part for the experience that they had given me and also the opportunity to serve. I don't want that to be left unsaid, and I do not want to minimize their contribution. However, having said that, if I was in church, I was going to say, this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is a new season. It is a new day. It is a new chapter. It matters not how I found myself in this room today. What matters is that I'm here, in full force, completely, totally, and wholeheartedly sold out to the mission of Action SA concerning not only South Africa, but also Gauteng.
Of course, every week we'll be bringing you this part of the program where we'll be tracking the road to the crucial November elections. And to help us navigate this for this week, I'm joined on the line by veteran political analyst, Professor Lisiba Tefu. Prof, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Are you feeling it? Are you feeling that the election is here?
Yeah, well, greetings. Yeah, well, yeah, we read a lot, we hear a lot. Yeah, it's right. The IEC is doing its best to educate the people, to inform the people, to galvanize everybody to be on the alert and ready for the fateful day in November. Well, good. I hear politicians are talking this and that language. They are trying to deploy people. They are interviewing. They are considering this and that. Yeah. And anyway, that's where we are. That's the people we are. Yeah.
From what has been said so far, I mean, in the main, it's really been about announcing or not announcing or promising to announce a mayoral candidate, and it's been a bit of a strange at times situation. I mean, the ANC has been promising to announce its mayoral candidates, been busy with interviews, but it keeps postponing that. The MK party, which is the official opposition in parliament currently, is not even talking about announcing presidential candidate. But the DA and others have been ahead. We saw the EFF announcing their candidates this week, and the DA has been doing that for quite some time. Does the act of announcing presidential candidates ahead of others necessarily give the parties that announce any form of advantage, or is it an indication of confidence even?
Well, I would just say maybe there are advantages of doing that in advance, and some may say in terms of strategy, maybe people might evaluate and consider our candidates and find them wanting one way or another. But maybe if the time is limited before they can really go into some closets and discover certain skeletons, it might be a strategy to consider. But if you were to look at how Helen Zille performed, right, since she started, she's far ahead. And some might say, maybe they are a little too late to catch up with her. Maybe she's also disadvantaged by having started early. But things look like she started early and she's fairly ahead.
Well, I mean, the ANC has had to go outside of its sort of normal channels to actually, try to persuade some of its cadres, current and former, but who may not be as active, to say, avail yourselves. And they have had this, what they say has been an elaborate interview process that is still ongoing. Is that telling us anything about their state of mind?
Look, I appreciate that they are faced with an existential crisis, a crisis of their own making, for they were impervious to positive influence. They were anti-intellectual. They were unwilling to understand that sins of incumbency brought down many a liberation movement. History will tell you, at most 20 years if you are a liberation movement. From there, you stay in power by hook or crook. That they are trying to get credible people And most of them are the elderly, the aged, right? The Silowas, Muruti Chekani, Bazima, Nkosazana, you name them. And some I might say, is this a vote of no confidence in the current generation that is in charge across the provinces, the municipalities, and even in government? Because in the main, they seem to be looking at the aged, those who have a track record. And I understand why. They do have a track record. They are far much better, comparatively speaking, because most of them acquitted them well. But most of those who are today in that hallowed building, in the name of the glorious movement, many are not worthy of being there or being considered. They may not say it in such strong language, but that they are even going through the interviews that are also not popular because they are running counter to the culture that they've already established. That the stronger faction of the day, be it in Mamelodi, Nyanga or Langa, will be the one that deploys a person. I don't see how they're... Part of it why they cannot announce is because of the challenges they are experiencing on the ground.
I don't know what your analysis or sense is, Prof, but I do get a sense that those who have or left the ANC feel that it is a lot more vulnerable, and in local government elections they may make more inroads than they've made before, or for those who have been more successful than others, that they will be able to make even more inroads. And I'm going to take two examples. One of the MK party that believes it's going to do even better than it did in 2024. And you have the likes of their former Secretary General, Ace Magashule, who seems to think that perhaps starting lower down will give him a more advantage. Your sense?
Yes, look, I don't see the ANC really performing well in this election, with due respect. The glorious movement has taken a lot of hammering. It hasn't done itself a good service. It hasn't listened to the people on the ground, the cries of the natives on the ground. Graft, the infrastructure collapse, cadre deployment, tender system, right? These are the things that destroyed the movement. You and I have been talking about this for 20, 25 years, and we aren't listened to. And I said, and many others, that a day will come when we would like to do things the right way, and by that time it would be late, and the people will vote.
But then, Prof, how do you explain that the fact that the people who have already made inroads in the form of the MK party are actually from the ANC, and the man who leads it is a former ANC president who was responsible in part for the things that you're saying, the sins of incumbency. And the other one who thinks he's going to make inroads in the name of Ace Magashule is also a former Secretary General and a former Premier.
Yeah, well, maybe we shouldn't, I don't even want to harp on this one because they know for sure what they did on that fateful day in 2007 at the University of the North. That election, that was the beginning of the decline and the downfall of the glorious movement. They know it better than me that the downfall of the ANC started in the North, right? So, and they were part of it all. And it is unfair, at least to apportion blame on one person. There is a tendency to try to blame Jacob Zuma. He couldn't have achieved all these things or done all the wrong things if he didn't have the support of the men and women in that organization. But let's come back to, and I don't see, by the way.
And we have run out of time, Prof. Please quickly, in a few seconds, apologies for this.
Oh no, well, if we have run out of time, I just wanted to say something about Magashule, that watch out for Ace Magashule. Very popular. He did exceptionally well in that province for 15 years. Chances are he will be a mayor. In 2 years' time, he will be in the legislature, if not if not the premier. I dare say he's likely to end up as a premier in the next 3 years. And I suspect we are going to debate this for some time, you and I and others. But the way I'm reading this, I made my little research. I suspect he's very popular. He's more acceptable today than he was 3-4 years ago.
Professor Sibatefu, let me thank you very much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. And that's how we come to the end of this week's episode of This Week in Politics. Thank you for joining us.